There comes a time in every man's life he gets tired of recording Prince Lyrics podcast episodes. Well, that hasn't happened to this man quite yet. So for this 97th episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast, I'm joined again by Eloy Lasanta to discuss the lyrics to Forever in My Life. Welcome back to the show, Eloy.
Thank you, Jason. And what up, fam? Thanks for coming and listening. This is like an amazing podcast, first off. So I give Jason all the props here. He occasionally has me on, which I'm sure is great for the listeners. But even when I'm not here, it's an amazing podcast. And, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait to find out what you do for episode 100. Like, oh my God, do you have something big planned?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to do for the 100th episode. But we're not quite there yet. We're 97. Yeah. This is the end of the first disc of Signo the Times. It's the final track on the album. But before we get started talking about it, Eloy, anything new with you since the last time you were on the show to cover a new position late 2020? I kind of feel like you've had something going on since then.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, and like it didn't even feel like it had been 6 freaking months. But obviously, at the tail end of the last episode, I was talking about, hey, I'm working on music, and, I might have something to talk about soon. Well, actually, 1 month ago today, I actually did release my debut album, and it is out there. The name of the band is Strays of the World. The name of the album is In My Head. If you know what I look like, my face is on the cover, so that makes it super easy to spot. But it's 12 songs, 11 of them written, arranged, composed, produced, mixed and mastered, everything by me. So it's quite the accomplishment. I feel like for any musician, let alone somebody who kind of just got into music about a year ago, to release an album. And, so far people really seem to be digging it. So, I can't complain. I'm really enjoying that. And obviously the Prince's Friend YouTube channel just crossed 38,000 subscribers. Not 38, 28,000 subscribers, excuse me. I'm the wishful thinking there. But that does mean that we're getting closer and closer to 30,000 subscribers, which is, ridiculous.
It's crazy.
For some, dork who just overthinks Prince songs and just likes to jump on camera and talk about it. I feel like that's a huge accomplishment, honestly. And I'm always just thankful for anybody who kind of comes along with me for the ride, whichever ride it is, whether it's, just talking about Prince, whether it's, following me to actually support me in my own music. Like, so it's just all just pretty amazing.
It is. And, both projects, Prince's Friend YouTube channel and Strays of the World's music, the album you just released, they're both enormous accomplishments, so I congratulate you on both of them, nearing 30,000 subscribers and releasing a debut album. Even if it was just you and a guitar, doing like the acoustic thing for 12 tracks, that would be amazing, but it's not. It's like a professionally produced, completely professionally produced album with like all sorts of instrumentation in it. It's really impressive. I have my favorites, of course. My favorite song is probably All the Colors. I really dig that song. Of course, I gotta shout out the Ava Adore cover for Smashing Pumpkins. I'm a huge Pumpkins fan, as you are as well. But My Siren's a great track. There's just strong tracks all around. It's an amazing album, Eloy. So congratulations again. I was part of your listening party last month.
Yes.
And I loved it. Enjoyed the hell out of it. That was my first listen to the entire album, which I guess is kind of the point of a listening party.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Introducing
Well,
all the songs for the first time. But yeah,
yeah.
great.
No, thank you for that. And I've really appreciated your support this whole way. Like, you and a few others that have just been so supportive and encouraging. That's the sort of thing that as not just as a musician, but any kind of creative, you're looking for that positive reinforcement. Sometimes that's the only thing that gets you going. So, I thank you, and I thank anybody who, is giving new music a chance. As a host of a Prince channel, I often will get people who comment and say, all I listen to is Prince and there's nothing else I ever want to listen to. And I'm like, Prince didn't only listen to Prince, right? Like, right. Prince listened to a lot of stuff. You were never going to grow as a person if you limit yourself to just one experience in any part of your life. So, like if you were like, I only eat Italian food, and just like, oh my God, there's so many other cultures and different experiences and tastes. And same goes for music, obviously. So, like I said, it's an amazing thing just for anybody who's like, here's new music from somebody who's never, who I've never heard of before. Let's try them out. Like, that's honestly a giant hurdle to get over. And I just thank everybody who, again, gave it that first shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a valid point, and I think that a lot of what Prince's music did or could do, if you were open to it, is introduce listeners of Prince's music to new styles of music and new types of music, because he was an eclectic songwriter, song creator himself. He could do a funk song, he could do a gospel song, which is kind of what Forever in My Life is. I mean, really, it's has very deep roots into gospel. And you've got rock and roll, you've got hip hop. I mean, whatever you want, pop music, straight up soulful R&B music. Yeah. He had it all. So if you're saying like all I listen to is Prince, okay, but isn't there any kind of intrigue that you have as a listener to kind of figure out some of his influences and kind of dive back into some of the things that kind of shaped his music and his different directions that he took within his career? So for me, it's a kind of a no-brainer, but I guess, we're a little different sometimes, you and I, when it comes to that.
And that's true. We are, I think the fact that we are able to listen to different things also allows us then to come back to Prince's music and be able to dissect it and be like, oh, I know Prince listened to this band, let me go listen to that band. And then you come back to Prince's music and you're like, I see the influence, I see what he got from listening to these other musicians, and because not that Prince would not plagiarism or anything, but there's a thing, like you can feel a vibe. And there's songs like Make Your Mama Happy, and things like that. Like Make Your Mama Happy was specifically a song that Prince said he was doing in order to, it was kind of like a shout out to Sly and the Family Stone. And I was like, that's interesting. So I went and listened to the song that Prince even said, like, I was listening to this song and it inspired me to make a song kind of like that. And I went and listened to it and I'm like, wow, like they're very similar, but not exactly the same. But it just showed again that Prince could do anything in pretty much any style. So
yeah. So the style of this song, as I kind of already mentioned, is very rooted in gospel music. It's a ballad for the most part. If you're just going to put a blanket genre stamp on it, it's a ballad. But it has a little bit of an interesting backstory. I mean, not as interesting in terms of like its studio creation, like the Ballad of Dorothy Parker was, but in some ways it's similar. How it was there was a studio mistake that was made by his engineer at the time, Susan Rogers, that created the interesting vocal technique that was used in the song. So for the most part, songs with backing vocals, which were done by Prince in the song, it's Prince in the lead vocal, Prince in the backing vocals. A lot of times they follow the main vocals, the lead vocals, the backing ones do. In this case, they precede it, which really provides a very unique listening experience, because it's almost like you're getting like a preview of the main lyrics. Like he sings a little bit of what's coming up in the main lyrics and the lead lyrics because of how it was placed in front of instead of behind. And that was a mistake. That wasn't intentional, I guess.
Really?
But yeah, that was a mistake. Susan Rogers admits that she had screwed up placing the backing vocals. She thought she had them lined up properly. Turns out she didn't. And Prince heard it, and instead of making her fix it, he's like, "No, I dig that." And this is like the second. That's like the second time on this album where we have an instance that there was a studio mistake. Prince heard it and dug it and just left it instead of doing it over or making her fix it or whatever needed to be done. Like the Ballad of Dorothy Parker is the other kind of famous example with its kind of underwater warbly sound, was based off of a studio mistake, and we've got another one here. But it makes the studio an official released version of Forever in My Life that much more unique, knowing that whenever I heard it, I heard that and I thought it was cool, but I had no idea it wasn't just Prince just being uber creative, which he was often doing really kind of interesting things in the studio. This one was just oops. but it worked. It totally works, right? I think at least in my mind it works.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, and honestly, just I don't think I had ever heard that story, and it might have been maybe in the podcast that I have still yet to listen to.
No, actually, it's not. It's not. They never really touched on that.
Really?
I thought they would, but they didn't. They didn't touch on that at all. So it's something that I read over the years. I don't remember exactly where I read it, but if you Google it, you'll find some sort of information on it. But no, it wasn't in the official Prince podcast when they talked about this song. They focused really heavily on like the intention of the song being more written at the time for Susanna Melvoin, who was Prince's fiancée at the time, and how he admitted that this song was about her, I guess, in a 1997 interview. In his own way, he's like, somebody had asked him what his influence or what was his inspiration for the song, and he said, Susanna, she knows. But then again, shortly after the song was recorded in August of '86, the two of them were already broken up, like several months later. So he had to play this song live on the Sign of the Times tour. He had to play this song for the Sign of the Times movie with the no longer in a relationship with the woman that he admitted that he wrote it for. So it has to have kind of a deeper meaning. It can't just be about one thing and one thing only, or else, with a lot of songs, if you're really focusing on that one influence and that one inspiration, and if that inspiration is no longer with you, or it's not, as strong as it was when you recorded the song, then maybe the song doesn't have the same kind of meaning to the artist, the same kind of importance to the artist. And this song, he had to push through that and find a new inspiration, whether or not that was a person, or as we start going through the lyrics, maybe something a little more spiritual. And that's what kind of fascinates me about this song is, sure, he might have had Susanna in mind when he was writing the lyrics, but I think there was also some more stuff going on, some more influences that we can kind of dive into a little bit more and talk about a little bit more as we go through. What do you think about that, Eloy? Do you agree that there's multiple influences on this song potentially?
I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I also, when I was doing my official review of the Sign of the Times album, I picked up a lot on that. What I like to do whenever I'm listening to, especially a Prince album, is I try to dissect what kind of story he's trying to tell. And and when I was going through it, I remember that I was like, this song sounds like it's about a woman, and I guess it was, but also, it definitely sounds like it's, what's the way I could say that? Like it's a reaffirming of his spirituality and his belief in God. So you can take the lyrics in a certain way that he is actually singing this as more proclamation of, that God will be forever in my life. And, when we, like you said, when we start going through the lyrics, but I definitely picked up on that some of the lyrics, sound like they're very, romantic and whatnot. And, they are in effect. But also, if you remove that aspect of it, yeah, it definitely works both ways.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Right, because on the surface, it does seem to be just very much a song about maybe a man that's maturing in his romantic intentions and his perspective on life, and identifying that maybe the way that he was living in the past might have been a little reckless, or, he quote unquote juggling hearts. So to try to tone that down a little bit and rein that in order to live a fulfilling romantic life and have that connection with somebody, and it kind of comes across as somebody who's like being very reflective on the life they've lived and the life they want to live, and how can they get there, and this finding this person who or thing that has showed them the way in some respects, showed them how to live that kind of life and how to find that maturity within his relationships. That's what it kind of comes across on the surface without diving really deep into it. It's like a growing up song. Like
I definitely see that.
Yeah, I'm all grown up now, And Prince wrote this in '86. We assume somewhere around there. So then he would have been late 20s, 28 ish, which is about the time that people start feeling like. I mean, I know we're both well past 28 now, but if I recall correctly, at least I am. I know you are, Eloy, too.
I'm 21. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Sure. But yeah, it's about that time when I think a lot of adults start feeling like they're leaving their youthfulness behind, their youthful intentions behind. They have to start acting a little more mature. In whatever way, whether it's because of their career or because of their relationships. Maybe they're a parent now and they have to, live life a little differently. So it makes sense that this would be about the time the Prince is looking back and reflecting a bit on his relationships and maybe some of the things that he might have done wrong or could do better, and feeling like I found the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. So here's my song about that.
Yep.
All right, so let's start going through the lyrics. The song starts off with the kind of a refrain of la da 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 da, and we get that a couple times. But then he jumps into what I call the first verse. And there comes a time in every man's life when he gets tired of fooling around, juggling hearts in a 3-ring circus. Someday drive a body down to the ground. I never imagined that love would rain on me and make me want to settle down. Okay, so
well, maybe it's true. I think I do. That's still part of it, right?
Well, I'm going to call that the chorus. So okay. I'm just for the sake of breaking some of these lyrics up, because that gets repeated almost verbatim.
Well, and the reason that I think because Baby It's True, I think I do, is about settling down. It's a continuation. Anyway, it's fine. We can stop there. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Yeah. Anyway, so even if you add that, it makes me want to settle down, but Baby It's True, I think I do. I just want to tell you that I want it with you. So really the lyrics, the whether it's the verse and the chorus or whatever you want to call it, they all kind of blend together. There really isn't, and that's just the structure of the song. There isn't a lot of musical breakdowns or instrumentation. It's a very straightforward musical song, sung in a way. You got the driving drum beat behind it, and it's pretty simplistic in terms of its instrumentation, and that's part of, I guess, how the different versions that we have of this song. We have the official Sign of the Times version that we're talking about. We have the one that was released last year on the Super Deluxe edition, the vocal run-through, which musically has some additional elements to it that the released version did not have. And then you've got the really cool Sign of the Times movie version, like the 11-minute full-on gospel version when he brings everybody up to the front of the stage. Bonnie Boyer testifies, and it's just, that one is amazing. I wish I had an audio version of that. I mean, I can listen to it anytime on YouTube or whatever, but I just love that version so much. But I love all the versions of this song, to be quite honest with you.
100%.
There's
Yeah.
no like incorrect version for me. But yeah, this first verse for me kind of seems to explore some more of the more romantic notions that the song represents. The imagery that I get with the juggling hearts in a three-ring circus, that's kind of a nice metaphor for, circus being like his life and his romantic engagements. He's calling that a little bit, or comparing that to a circus. And I guess when you're Prince, it kind of feels like a circus. I guess, I mean, your romantic interests kind of feel like that probably to him at times. A lot of people vying for his attention, and
Yeah.
being a ladies' man, and in some respects, he was certainly open to that as well. It's not like he was shunning that aspect of his life. So, like some of the things that you see in this first verse, Eloy, what do you want to point out and talk about?
I mean, honestly, like I said, there's a few different ways that you can take this. This could be kind of like a born again moment. So there comes a time in every man's life where, he's seeing all the stuff that he's doing and realizing that it's not the way to go. And settle down. Yes, I mean the term is mostly used for find yourself a good woman and settle down. But but I also feel like Prince never really had any intention of settling down, even when he was with people. Uh, Life was still a circus.
Mm-hmm.
So he even wrote another song, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was the Lion of Judah, where like that whole song, much later song, but he's just like, it's actually pretty cool that even though my life is crazy, you still want to be with me, and it's great. So like that's the kind of thing, like I think Prince really kind of just realized it after the fact. He's just like, yeah, there's not going to be any getting away from it.
Mm-hmm.
This was also kind of around the time, though, that he was doing a lot more, from the stories and stuff that I have read and heard people speak about, that he was doing a lot more soul searching around this time. And the idea that this song is, again, more directed towards God, because again, there was a certain point where Prince was still kind of trying to hide a lot of the messages in the lyrics. So it wasn't until after Love Sexy that you can just be like, nope, he's definitely talking about God because he just said God. Before that, you have to, he was being a little bit clever with his wording and with his, phraseology to kind of give you the certain idea that he could be talking about God and religion. So there's that. I mean, like, until he pointed it out, like I never thought the elevator was, what, was the devil. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like that sort of thing. But that's kind of how I feel about this song, is that it's a very romantic, almost like a marriage song, but also very much about him realizing that he needs to make a change in his life. That's part of what I like. But also, again, anytime that he said love, I mean, and that was also a thing, like, he deciphered it on Love Sexy, where he said love is God, God is love. And then, it was basically like, oh crap, really? Every time he says love, he could be talking about God? So, for me, I immediately, was going back and like, okay, let me listen to this song and let me listen to this song. So here he is in this verse saying, I'm, a crazy man and going, doing a bunch of things that maybe I shouldn't be doing. And I never would have imagined that love would have rained on me. And of course, it's like, oh, that's interesting, because then that means that if you take it within that context of God is love, love is God, it would mean that God basically, he had a moment, a spiritual moment. So, that's the way I've kind of taken it, and it's making him want to reconsider. And it's, again, like, even if you do take it from a romantic spot, he's like, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm doing all this stuff, and then I feel the presence of God, and then it makes me want to settle down. Not that he's settling down with God, but it's about having that moment and that kind of epiphany in this verse, and it's making him want to settle down with this woman, which is great, if that's the life that you choose to live, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and I do like that. I never imagined that love would rain on me, because it kind of feels a little bit like a callback to Purple Rain in some ways, just using rain as a metaphor for like cleansing, the cleansing power of love, and and love, as you'd already talked about and already explained, that oftentimes was interchangeable with God. And so that's why it can be really interpreted multiple ways, or at least for sure two. Love literally, or love as God. And either way, it works, because if it's love, the romantic kind of love, makes him want to settle down, and it is feeling like he's trying to communicate a desire to settle down and kind of have that family man kind of life, and do that with the person that he's singing the song about, whoever that may be at the time. And that's why it's a universal song, because even if he wasn't really quite ready for that, because as we know, he didn't ultimately marry Susanna, and they broke up, and allegedly due to some of Prince's infidelity. So whether or not he really wanted to, he might have in his heart wanted to, like when he wrote this song, really felt genuine about wanting to settle down and spend his life, but he just wasn't ready for it. And in some ways, the whole God thing, you could say that if you take the God angle, he maybe at sometimes wasn't quite ready to fully commit to God in the ways that maybe he thinks God would have wanted him to, because we've got the Black Album that comes shortly after this, and he rejected that, but he recorded it, and before recording Lovesexy, so he still wasn't maybe quite ready for God yet either, fully in his mind.
It's kind of like that thing where like, first off, you can't help somebody if they don't want to be helped, but a lot of the time for somebody to accept that help, they kind of need to be at rock bottom. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what it felt like to me is that this was him kind of reaching out and asking for that spiritual guidance, and the way that the song is, it's written like he did have that moment, but then it's almost as if it's aspirational, like, I'm writing a song about me having this moment because I really want to have this moment. Exactly. Yes. But it wasn't until Lovesexy that he actually did have that moment. Mm-hmm. So that's I guess that's my interpretation of it, though.
No, mine too. Aspirational is the perfect word to use for it, and I didn't write aspirational down, but that's certainly what I was thinking of when I was trying to think of ways, like, this felt like a song that like wish fulfillment almost. Yeah. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to, in this moment when I write this song, this is what I want to go for. This is what I want to strive for. And maybe I didn't succeed at first attempt, but I'm going to still keep going at it. I'm not going to give up. Yeah. And he did. So, the last thing I did want to call out with this first section of lyrics is I do like another callback that I see, and that's the someday drive a body down to the ground reminds me a lot of Little Red Corvette. Burn your body right to the ground, and that's part of the lines for Little Red Corvette, and it has a very similar kind of imagery of how living a very, lustful life, or having a lot of relationships, a lot of sexual encounters, can really burn somebody out, for lack of a better term. And so, he's using, the car metaphor in Little Red Corvette, and he doesn't use a car metaphor here, but he's still trying to communicate like the same imagery or the same feeling that this is going to eventually, like, if you don't settle down, you keep juggling hearts in this 3-ring circus, you're going to eventually burn out by it, and it could wear on you so much that you feel like you're burned out on romance, burned out on relationships, burned out on sex, whatever it may be. And he kind of calls back on that same kind of language here in the song.
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of like, I don't want to be in the same position as Little Red Corvette was, so, but I could see too of saying it could drive a body down to the ground, which could mean that, like, it could mean exhaustion, meaning like you just you fall and you just can't get up. It could be that it's making him get on his knees and possibly pray, which is interesting, that the next line would be that love rained on him. Like, he realizes the problem, he gets down on his knees, and then, oh my God, I'm feeling the presence of God here, and then obviously the third version would be down to the ground, and could be also underground, could be that if you keep doing this you're gonna die, could kill you,
Yeah.
so like there's three potential over this little line. That's why this podcast is awesome, and is a great person, and I'm sure he'd be like, oh, I wrote it this way. But that's the thing about art, it's like even if it has one intention, it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, which is again why Prince is really fun to dissect.
And also why I think he was smart enough to not explain his songs for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knew that other people might have different thoughts on them and different opinions on the lyrics, right or wrong. He might think of somebody or hear somebody's opinion like, that's totally off. But you know what? I'm going to let them think that because it's art. Once it's out there, it's out there.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And people can interpret it any way they want. And if you explain it, if you explain your art, then that takes that kind of ability for other people to enjoy it if they interpret it a different way.
Yeah, trust me, my dissecting of Prince's music and just delving so deep into it went a lot into the construction of my own album. It's just like I tried to do the sequencing of the songs in a certain order that would tell a story, and I had lines that connect the different songs, and my goal would be that one day there would be another Jason out there that would be like, I love Strays of the World, I'm gonna do a podcast, it's gonna break down all their music, and that's the goal obviously in life.
Sure. Yeah, that's an awesome goal, actually. I mean, you gotta, if it kind of forms the way you write your lyrics, then that's all for the better. I think people who want to interpret your lyrics, they're gonna read that, they're gonna listen to it, and they're gonna apply whatever it is that they want to apply to it. Like even a song like Garbage Truck.
Right.
That seems like it's pretty straightforward about what it's referring to, but you can definitely apply that to your own life. Like, okay, these are things that I can do or I'm already doing to support the person in my life that I love. And that doesn't even have to be another human being. It could be anything, really.
Right. Oh,
even
see?
Though you
look at you already doing it. Already doing it. Yep. Okay, so after that first section of lyrics, then we get kind of the chorus, and I only call it the chorus because it's repeated later. The baby, it's true, I think I do, and I just want to tell you that I want it with you. And baby, if you do too, forever, forever. Baby, I want you forever. I want to keep you for the rest of my life. All that is wrong in my world, you can make it right. You are my savior. You are my light. Wherever I want you in my life. And before we start dissecting that section of lyrics, this is where you do start getting the background vocals that precede the main vocals, the lead vocals. It starts here in this section of the song. I'm still amazed that was a mistake. I'm still amazed because honestly, it brings the song freaking to life to have oh my God, like that blows my mind. Seriously, I really did not know that.
It's really cool. It's really cool. I love the way it does that because it's just so unusual. It's not something you hear.
No, oh my God.
Not in 1987, not in 2021.
Yeah, and literally, I get called out. People think I know it all, but seriously, I will totally say if I don't know something.
Yeah,
like I completely did not know that. But you're
right. Nobody likes a know-it-all anyway, Eloy.
Yeah, nobody likes to know. I don't even like a know-it-all, even though I do. I mean, I know a lot, but I don't. Seriously, I really don't know it all.
But saying you know a lot is not the same as saying I know everything.
Exactly. The first chorus is the one that really kind of did start cementing in the idea that this is a song about God or specifically Jesus. If we look back up to this point in his career, there was only one other song where he kind of talked about Jesus, and he was kind of taking on the persona of Jesus in I Would Die for You, where he's like, I'm your Messiah. Like it's pretty cool. So in this case, he's saying you are my savior, you are my light, and yeah, you could say that about a woman and a romantic interest, but knowing the type of person that Prince was, more than likely, the only person who is going to be his savior would be Jesus, which then kind of gives, again, the song a completely different kind of feel if you take it within that context.
Hmm. Agreed. And I'm going to shout out Erica Thompson because she
Whoop,
covered
whoop.
Forever in My Life. Yeah, she's great. Also a guest on my show often. And
Love Eric.
yeah, she often touches on songs that deal with Prince's spirituality and how spirituality and romantic connections, they're often intermingled, love and lust, things like that.
Yeah.
The juggling of the two that Prince often did. But in her Prince Twitter thread on Forever in My Life, that was part of last year's Sign of the Times collection on Twitter. So I'll put a link to that so anybody wants to check out what Erica did for this song. This was like right up her alley for the same reasons that we're talking about it now, having this spiritual connection in a song that is
Yeah.
seemingly on the surface about romance and about love. And she makes that connection again with Savior. It's how, like, a lot of times Prince would use women kind of in as a metaphor for Jesus, like to say like you're my savior, and you're thinking, okay, so he's talking about a woman. If he's talking about a woman, that woman's going to be a savior. Okay, that's putting a lot on her. That's asking a lot of a human being to be your savior, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure. And while maybe being his savior just by being themselves and just by existing, being a part of their life is all he's asking for, but at the same time, you can't help but think about those connections between human being savior and more spiritual and religious savior, which of course would be God and Jesus. So
Yeah.
she makes that connection in her Prince Twitter thread, and how like the concept that women represent a more holy union between man and woman. There's something more to it than just a marriage certificate. The union between man and woman, a lot of times in Prince's ideal world, had larger implications. Like it was almost like it saves him. It saves him from what?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Saves him from self-destructive behavior. Saves
Yeah,
him
I
from
was gonna
just.
say that's what it sounds like, because
It does. Yeah.
yeah, if we take the religious aspect out of it and we say this is not a song towards Jesus, and we say that he is calling this woman his savior, it makes it honestly, to me, it makes it a lot less of a romantic song, in my opinion, because then at that point he's literally saying, I need you to save me from myself, thus kind of relinquishing any personal responsibility that he might have to fix himself. So
Yeah.
so he might just be like, I need you to be here and I want to keep you here, because if you're here, then I won't be that person that I'm trying to get away from. And so it could be that it's almost like akin to Big Tall Wall, which was written around the same time, which was him and Susanna were having. I've heard, I read the stories in the deluxe edition of Sign of the Times. They were having their issues, and he wrote a song called Big Tall Wall, which was, I'm going to build a wall around us so that we can just be together forever and you can't leave.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, like that's not very romantic either, Prince. So especially if you combine the two songs, it's like, you have to stay with me, so I'm going to build a wall around. It's like, ooh, wow. I guess that kind of shows a little bit of the dysfunction possibly in their relationship.
Yeah.
But again, like if it's him asking, God for, a direction, and then he's going to make the choice to now settle down, that's different than, you're with me and, stay here. Otherwise I'm going to be bad again. And it really, those are the two interpretations that I have at this moment, so.
Yeah, I want to keep you for the rest of my life. He says that right here in this song. I want to keep you for the rest of my life. Why? Because all that's wrong in my world, you make right. So anything negative, it's he's putting like this really intense amount of I say pressure, but whether it is or not, I don't know. If the person feels pressure, if they just feel flattered, I'm not sure. But all that's wrong in my world, you can make right. You are my savior. You are my light.
Yeah.
Now that line taken out of context, you just throw that line out there. You are my savior. You are my light. That could be like in any kind of hymn book, singing a song about
Yeah.
God or Jesus in church. That line could be lifted directly out of
Yeah.
a religious hymn and saying, "You're my savior, you're my light."
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's not, stay with me, baby, because I love you. It's I'm gonna keep you here.
I need you to be here to ground me, and I need you to be
exactly.
here
and again,
to make me a good person.
If it's to another person, then I agree that it's that pressure that you're talking about. If it's to God, then that makes it a better song, honestly.
Well, yeah, because that's what we do. That's what people who go to church do. They testify in a way where they're saying that they're going to give up their life to Jesus or God, and they're going to let the light in, I guess. Let Jesus' light in. And that's what you're kind of doing in, not just in church. I mean, obviously you're not just supposed to be doing that for an hour every Sunday, but you're supposed to be living your life this way. And so what you're doing then in those moments is kind of reaffirming that, and reminding yourself of what it is that you're supposed to be doing in your day to day in order to make sure that you are allowing God's light into your life.
Right.
But the really kind of, let's flash forward 10 years. Okay. Let's flash forward 10 years. We've got the Emancipation album. Remember, there's a song on Emancipation called Savior.
Yeah.
And so this song Savior has a lot of parallels to Forever in My Life lyrically. I mean, not like, oh my God, it's like he just basically plagiarized his own song. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is the song is seemingly about two things again. You could apply this. Okay, this is clearly a song about Maite. Yeah. Okay, sure. It's about Maite. This is about the time that he was either proposing or was about to propose to her, or no, wait. Well, it depends on when it was written, whether or not they've already been married or not. But anyway, it's about that time. I mean, where they're deeply in a relationship. Lines like, "You're my savior, you're all I ever need." That's in the chorus.
Yeah.
"When I look in your eyes, I can see paradise. We're like two branches from the same tree." So he's essentially kind of reiterating the same sentiment in Savior that he is in Forever in My Life, where you could apply it to his relationship and talking about how now, that didn't work out with Susanna. Clearly didn't work out for, he didn't stay with her forever in his life. But now he's got this new savior. And so whether or not it's about a new woman, in this case, Maite, or it's just, again, reaffirming his dedication to Jesus Christ and God, it works both ways again. Like, you know what? You're still my savior, God. I might have veered off the path a few times between 1986 and 1996, but I'm here to say you're my savior. You're what I need in my life.
Yes.
And so those two songs to me have very similar sentiments, where they can have that dual meaning. And when I get to Savior, God knows how long it'll take me to get to Savior, but when I do, I'll be like, okay, remember that episode I did on Forever in My Life with Eloy back in 2021? Yeah, we kind of touched on that already.
Bring me back on for Savior. Whenever you get there, bring me back on, and we'll talk about it.
There we go.
Because I love that song too.
So the next verse is, "There comes a road in every man's journey, a road that he's afraid to walk on his own.
I'm at that road.
I'm here to tell you that I'm at that road, and I'd rather walk it with you than walk it alone. You are my hero, you are my future. When I am with you, I have no past. Oh baby, my one and only desire is to find some way in this doggone world to make this feeling last." And then, of course, then he'll move into the, it's true, I do. I just want to tell you that I won't do. So then we start getting back into like the same lyrics that we just dissected. But what I just read is brand new lyrics to the song. So
yes,
when I think of this verse now, when I listen to it, I hear it, I read it. The connections between love and spirituality, love and his religious journey that he's taking are much clearer here. Just the language that he uses, the metaphors that he's using, that he's on a road. This is his journey.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this path that he needs to take, but he's afraid to walk on it by himself. I don't know. Just for me, I get a lot of like the same, like you need Christ in your life to help you get through the rough patches.
Right.
He's the one who's going to guide you when things get difficult. You're not sure which way to go. Let Jesus guide you. Those are kind of the same platitudes and kind of the same things that we've been told. Anybody who's ever gone to church or had Sunday school or whatever it is that you've experienced in your life, you kind of get that same message. You've heard that message before. And here it is in this song. Especially in these lines. Yeah, of course, it can be applied to a woman as well. He wants to journey down this road of life with another person next to him. It's going to guide him. That person is going to walk with him on this path, on these paths that he has to take throughout his life. So yeah, it still applies. It's still a very dual meaning song, but I don't know. I just get this verse opens it even wider to me as being also the spiritual connection.
Most definitely. Honestly, it doesn't really even feel like it's talking about a person anymore until you get back to the baby, you're my one and only desire. Like all the rest of that is, I'm going through my life and I've realized that I can't do it alone, and I need God to show me the way. You're my hero, you're my future. When I'm with you, I have no past. Like, the when I'm with you, I have no past is a big one too, because like that's what it is. It's when you're born again, or when you reclaim when you claim God is that's your one, and like you devote your life to God, then at that point nothing you've done up to that point matters. You've been forgiven for all your wrongdoings, and now your life is devoted to God. So like a lot of that really, and honestly, I'd rather walk it with you than walk it alone just reminds me of that poster or the saying or whatever of the, there's footprints in the sand walking next to you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think about that sort of, so I mean, honestly, really like a lot of that second verse leans very heavily on, it could be about his religious experience, and then it gets baby, you're my one and only desire, and it's just like, okay, well, I guess maybe we're talking about a girl now, so,
right,
but also, I mean, you could also say, you're my one and only desire, and I want to find some way to make this feeling last. And again, if this person is, God told you that this person is the one that you're supposed to walk that road with. If we take the first one, which is, I got down on my knees and God said, I need to settle down, and you're the one. So now if I don't settle down, there's problems. So I need to settle down, and you're the one, and I'm going to make this, this feeling last now by, obviously keeping you forever in my life.
It's very sinister sounding.
I had to, because that's kind of how it comes off if you use that interpretation of it. Again, it just makes it a lot less romantic.
I'm going to keep you forever in my life. Ooh. Yeah, I get that. It's kind of fun, we're just goofing around, but yeah, it's with the lines like "You're my hero, you're my future. When I'm with you, I have no past." That kind of gives me like born again vibes. Yeah. Like almost like a baptism of sorts, where I guess the concept is like, if you're born again, your past is your past. We're not worried about the sins that you committed in your past or how you lived your life in your past. If you're dedicating your life from this moment forward, you don't have a past anymore. It's irrelevant. You're my future, Jesus. You're my future, God. You're my future. This is how I'm going to live my life now. And that's a lot of what I get when I listen to those, way more so than I'm thinking, like you said, the romantic aspects of it, until we get to the baby, you're my one and only desire. And because you just don't normally use desire when you're expressing a dedication to Christ. It's not I desire Christ.
True.
You don't really say that too often. So that's why, it works both ways. And it had to be intentional to mix these kind of metaphors and mix the language in the song to, okay, I'm going to use this line, I'm going to use this word that's going to give, that, really has the strong religious imagery, but then I'm going to say desire. Oh, and another perfect way of how the love and lust, sex and spirituality intermingled in this song is how it was performed on the Sign of the Times movie.
Right.
If you remember, he sings this song very with a very gospel tinge to it, and bringing, like I said, Bonnie out there to do her thing, and just having everybody on stage on front and center with him. The way he performs it, it gives off that vibe. But then he starts intermingling lyrics with it into it.
Yes, exactly.
And what is it about? It's not about God, as far as I can tell. That song is very straightforwardly about sex. I want to do it. There's that connection again. It's like he wants to have that relationship with somebody that is rooted in spirituality, but he also wants to fuck him too. He wants to have sex with you.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is with him, and that's the way a lot of his songs are like that. Mm-hmm. And he expressed that very clearly and very well too. The way those two songs are mixed together on the Sign of the Times movie is perfectly done. It doesn't even feel like it's two different songs. It just feels
it honestly felt like it was the same song.
Yeah. It does. But, when you start breaking down the lyrics to it, which I already did in a previous episode, you don't get a lot of the same, you're not thinking the same way about that song as we're thinking about and speaking about Forever in My Life. It's not the same song in that respects, but the intention is the same. Like, I love you so much. I want to be with you. You're my guiding light. You're my savior. But I also want to sleep with you. And I think that you're very sexy. And I think that, when we have sex, I get a very spiritual connection with you too. Not just with Jesus, but with the person that I'm with. Yeah. That woman in my life, sex brings me closer to God. So that's, not to paraphrase the Nine Inch Nails song, but I just kind of did. But I just thought of that, like when we're talking about how talking in one line, you're my future, you're my hero, but you're also my one and only desire. And it's the same thing we're talking about here. Love and lust. And then spirituality thrown in, a sprinkle of that for good measure. Also the whole doggone world make this feeling last. I mean, I think he says woo doggy at the beginning of Playing the Sunshine, so he just likes throwing that word around in this era. Just kind of a little corny but fun at the same time. Anything else that you wanted to talk about here with this verse?
I can't think. I mean, honestly, I think we hit that verse really hard.
We did. Just want to make sure you had a chance to.
It's pretty much there,
Okay. I agree. Just in case you had any other thoughts, I wanted to give you a chance to express them. But yeah, I agree. We pretty much.
You were a gentleman and a scholar.
Well, I don't know about the scholar part, but I try to be a gentleman, especially when I have guests so gracious enough to be on my show.
Oh.
Okay, well, then after that line, those lyrics, we don't get too many more new lyrics, because then he just rolls right into the same chorus. Baby, it's true. I know I do. I just want to tell you that I want it with you. Baby, if you do too. Forever, forever. I want you, baby, forever. I want to keep you for the rest of my life. All that's wrong in my world, you can make it right. You're my savior, you're my light. Forever I want you in my life. And we get some more la da 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 da. And then as the song closes out, we do get him finally saying the actual title of the song for the first time. Because before he's saying I want you forever in my life, or forever I want you in my life.
Right.
Extra words in there, but then he just truncates that down to forever in my life, which is the title of the song, and he sings that over the outro of the song, which is cool because then we start getting a little bit of that acoustic guitar that wasn't really present in the song up to this point.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like it's fading out at a moment where it should be, kind of going in a different direction, and we're going to get the second half of the song, but we don't get that until we finally got the vocal run-through version last year. And then that version gave us kind of like what we've been feeling like we've been missing for the last 33 years, is that extra guitar work and the extra instrumentation that happens in the second half of the song in the vocal run-through version.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I should probably. Well, first off, yes, I really dug hearing the version of the song with the guitar the whole time. I thought that was actually really cool to hear, even though, because that on the album version, we only hear that at the end, and I've always been like, whoa, that's really cool. Like, I wish I could hear that more. And then when I finally did hear it, I'm like, I understand why he just kept it at the end as more of an accent, because it did become a little overpowering to the song itself, because you started paying attention a lot to like the guitar and stuff, and not necessarily to the message of the song that was being presented. Otherwise you're just like, wow, that guitar is really good, instead of wow, that's a beautiful song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get why, because it just carries a completely different tone. But since I'm not going to be on any other songs here for Sign of the Times, I just kind of wanted to give your audience, my interpretation of the Sign of the Times album as a whole, because honestly, for me, Forever in My Life is, I feel like it's like exactly the song that should end the first disc of Sign of the Times. Because, if you go through the songs, and again, I'm a huge sucker for like sequencing and like what story is this telling. A lot of it is about searching for love. That's what this album is. So if you go through it, it's Sign of the Times is, the world's about to come to an end, play in the sunshine, so we have to have fun. Housequake, it's more an extension of the fun. Ballad of Dorothy Parker's like, cool, like I'm kind of searching for something. I don't exactly know what it is. Obviously it is. So I'm gonna have sex along the way, obviously. Starfish and Coffee is like, you're meeting these really interesting people, and it's more kind of about how we're all different, and there's lots of different types of people, but also then it kind of goes into slow love. So I think for me, Ballad of Dorothy Parker is where it starts. So Ballad of Dorothy Parker is, I'm with somebody, but I'm also like seeing a prostitute. This was actually something that somebody pointed out to me again just the other day that I had never really taken into account, is that Dorothy Parker in the song is a prostitute. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And it's just like, yeah, because she works, what is it? Oh God, what's the line? I didn't have it right in front of me.
She worked the night shift, yeah.
She works the night shift at the Promenade. And like in my brain, it's like, oh cool, the Promenade must be the name of the, the restaurant or whatever. But no, it's like, it's like the boardwalk. It's like where like there's a bunch of like prostitutes waiting to take somebody home. And I was like, wow, like that's so weird that I never, picked that up. But, essentially, he's, experimenting with that sort of thing, and, he's not happy in his current relationship, and then it is, obviously, it's an interesting song, I will say, because, yes, it's like, I want to do it, baby, all the time, and, it's great, but there's like some desperation in there. It's like, I want to do it, but, like, I don't have anybody to do it with. I'm thinking about you, and I want to do it. Why aren't you here so that I can do it?
He does sound desperate in that song, yeah.
It does, right? And even Slow Love, like if you go over to Slow Love is like, I could do slow love to you, but you're running around with a race car driver. So he's still alone in that song. It's more kind of thinking about what he wants to do, not what he's actually doing. Hot Thing again, like I see somebody else, and there you go. And honestly, the whole first disc is that three-ring circus that, Forever in My Life, he's like, I'm actually ready now to accept the next person who is going to really change my life. And that's why the next song, the first song on the second disc, is You Got the Look. I see you. You know what I mean? I see that person now, and I'm going to pursue them. And then If I Was Your Girlfriend obviously means that there's some rocks. Strange Relationship, it's even more dysfunctional. Can Never Take the Place of Your Man. Like, all of those are like, it's not happening. And then I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man is saying, like, you know what? I really don't need another person to be with me. And then that's why the next song would be The Cross. And that's where he really does say, okay, you know, I thought that it was going to be a person, you know, a woman that was going to bring me there, but it's not. So I'm just going to just turn to religion now. And that's why it's going to be a beautiful night right after that. And it's wonderful. But then, of course, it ends with a door, which means he's kind of back to it in the end. You know, it's like, you know, right. he makes the decision that he doesn't need somebody, so it's going to be wonderful. And then he's already now on the phone, you know, macking on somebody else. So the whole album as a whole is, you know, kind of about trying to find somebody to complete you, but not necessarily finding that person, turning to God, but even that's not doing it for you entirely. You know what I mean? So this whole album is very much kind of just a search for Prince, is how I felt, and in the story that is being told here.
Yeah, kind of like the trials and tribulations of Prince's search for love and God. It's kind of like what Sign of the Times is as an album.
Pretty much. And if you remove the Black Album, then, you know, if you put Love Sexy as the next real album right after that, then it makes sense, because then he finally did find God. In, you know, within the story of the songs being presented, you know, in the way, you know, and all that stuff. So,
yep. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on Sign of the Times as a whole, Eloy. Where can people find your show and your music?
Yeah. Well, obviously, the show is Prince's Friend. You can go to YouTube and type in Prince's Friend, and you'll be able to find. We have over 600 videos. We've been at it for a while. We've been at it for over 5 years now. So, so there's lots and lots of stuff you can find there. We're obviously also on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. Just type in Prince's Friend anywhere. When I started the channel, the SEO was not very good, you know, because Prince's Friend, you know, they were interviewing everybody who knew Prince, and they would just introduce everybody as Prince's Friend. So nobody could find me. Because, you know, it'd be like an interview with Sheila E., Prince's friend, an interview with this person, Prince's friend, and I'd be like, oh God, nobody's going to be able to find me. But now if you type in Prince's friend into Google, you'll find me. Like, it's pretty interesting. Oh, yeah. You know, it's been a while, so, but in the beginning I was like, maybe I should pick a different name. And then obviously my music, the name of the project is Strays of the World, and the debut album that we have out is In My Head, so feel free to go pick that up if you kind of want to know what it's like to be in Eloy's noggin. And sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's not. So it runs the gamut of emotions. I also try to play around with some different styles on there. And, you know, again, for 11 of the 12 songs, I play all the instruments, I sing all of it, and, you know, it's pretty much me. It was an exploration of music for myself, so the first album is, you know, I'm kind of giving a piece of myself to the listener.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a great album. Stream it if you have Spotify. That's how I listen to it. I also have the CD. So there's physical copies you guys can buy from Eloy. And they can find that on... Where can people buy the CD, Eloy?
To buy the CD, you can go to either Bandcamp, straysoftheworld.bandcamp.com, or you can go to straysoftheworldmusic.com.
Gotcha.
And that's the official site.
Okay. I will definitely link that in the description for this episode.
Very nice.
All right. Well, we have covered Forever in My Life. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. Wanted to thank Eloy Lasanta again for joining me. 6 months doesn't always seem like very quickly, but we just pick right up where we left off. And I was on your show for an episode of the Prince's Friend Off last spring, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed that. So thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on the show that time, Eloy.
Not a problem. That was a lot of fun for me too.
Yeah, those are great episodes. A lot of fun overall. You can find the show, Press Rewind Pod, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also YouTube now. I'm putting back episodes on YouTube with the music scrubbed out because that gets flagged and removed right away if I try to leave clips of the music in the episodes. So if you just want to listen to us yammer on about Prince songs, go to the YouTube channel. I also try to throw on some interesting Prince songs that I come across that maybe not everybody has. So check it out if you get a chance. And until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.